Vietnam is a communist-dominated country with persecution and harassment often given to those who try to share the gospel. Julia O'Carey, director of ASAP Ministries, recently shared the following amazing testimony. In one Vietnam city of almost 4 million, a pastor of a house church and some of his fellow believers were eager to reach the people of their city for God. Because of this burden, they began handing out gospel DVDs and other materials. But they had little results and often suffered harassment and hours of grueling interrogation from the police because of their efforts. Not sure what to do next, and desperate to see God work, the pastor asked the believers in his house church to commit to 30 days of united prayer and fasting. They agreed. And so, fasting 3 out of 7 days a week, they began their 30-day prayer challenge. They prayed every day for hours, sometimes alone and often together. They spent time putting away wrongs and confessing their sins as they prayed that God would bring breakthrough. Not long after the 30 days ended, there was a knock on the pastor's door. Opening the door, he instantly recognized the face of a notorious former Viet Cong commander turned mafia gang leader in the city. This man was well known for his illegal activities, drug dealing, and gambling halls and brothels, and the pastor wasn't sure what to expect when the man held up one of the gospel DVDs. With some fear, but overpowered by his love for God, the pastor invited the man into his home. They began to study the Bible together one day at a time for weeks until the man accepted Christ as his personal Savior. The transformation in this man's life was amazing. He immediately went to work to dissolve his mafia organization and started closing down all his businesses that did not honor God. Everyone noticed the dramatic change, and his men began asking questions. As a result of his witness, 40 of his men, along with their families, soon followed his example and accepted Jesus. He was happy, but he didn't stop spreading the message with just his men. He had big goals and wanted to reach the whole city for God. One day, after much prayer, God gave this former mafia gang leader the idea to hold a celebration of Christianity. It was a wild idea, but amazingly, God blessed in a remarkable way. This was probably the first time in the history of communist Vietnam that such a large public event was successfully pulled off. Masses of people poured into a rented hall. The pastor who had won the mafia gang leader to Christ was asked to be the guest speaker. The ex-mafia leader also shared his powerful testimony about how God had changed his life. As a result, more came to Christ. Now more house churches had been established in the city. The group of ex-gangsters now has over 200 members and is growing. People are on fire for the Lord and His Word. Over 90,000 copies of gospel DVDs have been shared with people throughout the city. Many are hearing the everlasting gospel message for the first time and preparing for Jesus Christ's soon coming. Just imagine what might happen in our own lives and ministries if we followed this example and made fervent, united prayer and fasting a prerequisite to our mission, campaigns, and ministry endeavors. Hudson Taylor once stated, "Perhaps the greatest hindrance to our work is our own imagined strength, and in fasting we learn what poor, weak creatures we are, dependent on a meal of meat for the little strength which we are so apt to lean upon." I hope this story was an inspiration to you and shows you just what can be accomplished when we commit ourselves to prayer and fasting and really praying for God's kingdom to grow.